gonna start streaming now. You guys can all talk, and it's being recorded and everything. Let me just post all the links around YouTube. There we go. Make sure I spam all the channels. That's key when you're a reporter. Alright, this is your host Wind, and we're joined here today with Twisting and Smiles and Benji, of course, from the Age Changes Council. So we're going to have a really good conversation today. We may have a few other guests that join later to speak, or of course this is an open forum as well, so if anyone does want to speak, you know, just speak up. That's all I have to say there. Of course, I also want to mention that the YouTube comments are visible now on the screen, so we can actually see what people are saying in there if you choose to chat in there, because people do like to chat in there. We got Stephen Jr. requesting to speak. Welcome, Stephen, one of our guests joining now. Perfect timing. Alright, I've kind of structured the screen in a way now that we've got the proposed changes and revised changes on the screen now, but also, you know, more or less showing who's talking right now. So I'll try to figure out a way to move that around the screen while we're looking at it, so it's not too interrupting to, you know, what's being shown on the screen. So I was kind of looking briefly at the changes here, and you know, to be honest, I don't really see that much difference. I think it's like with the races, because I haven't really looked at it that closely yet, but you know, so far the first page of the forum seems the same. In your opinion, Benji, what's the biggest thing that's changed now in these revised changes? Because I've already seen people in the you know, in the Muga chats like complaining about it. So I mean, there must be something significant that I haven't seen yet. But maybe you can let us know a little bit more about that while I just kind of, you know, show the proposed versus the revised on the screen right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, proposed, I always say to my kingdom, don't even really think it's going to be the final piece, because revised always changes quite drastically from proposed. I think the main things that we really changed is more on the TM side than the cause. That was really where most of the attention went into. I know that I've been looking at the age changes discussions for the last 24 hours, and there seems to be a lot of discontent with the TM changes, but we are trying to strive to that balance. We do have a feeling that TMs have had quite a strength for quite a few ages now, and we still think in these current changes that they still are strong, and so we're not trying to, because I've had some people DM me directly and say that, you know, they feel like we've gutted TMs completely. I don't think we've really done that. I think that's a bit extreme of an opinion. But yeah, I think really most of it was on the TM side. We did make some subtle changes to the core. I'm really curious to hear from everyone in here what their thoughts are before I form any opinions myself.
So when you say like the TM,
I think Sab's had a change log from proposed.
Yeah, that would always be. Well, I can see right away.
TM's lost Rev.
Yes, TMs did lose Rev.
Yes, they did. Now.
In the course of an age, it can be up to 50% science difference, which is pretty drastic.
I mean, the main things off the top of my head is we lowered, I think, attack times and birth rate bonuses on Avian. I'm just checking our change logs here. Dwarf, we slightly lowered the building efficiency bonus. We increased the food penalty, but we did +1 their elite defense, and we adjusted the True Blood. On Elf, we increased the tower bonus. We did remove Rev, as Smiles was saying, and War Spoils, but we added Chastity. Halfling, we added the Thieves Den bonus to the race. We decreased Thief cost. Orc, we reduced the kill bonus, but we increased the gains bonus.
Oh no, someone listened to me.
We increased the spell cost reduction. Once again, we removed the Rev and the Chids. And what else we do here?
You also forgot the part where a fairy loses 10% population.
The learn damage and war was increased. I think that was the major ones off the top of what I can see here. We are still looking at some, I would say, more Yes, we have heard that from a lot of people about not happy about that change. We are looking at fairy. I don't know if we will necessarily change the 10 pop, to be honest with you. But we might make some tweaks on the True Blood bonus. But that's unlikely to change, I think, at the moment.
I think I actually suggested that as a change, and it's happened now. Oh, good for me. I said something like along the lines of, "Oh, fairy gets like that negative population thing all the time. You know, it needs to be." I might have even said it in the last cast, but that's like a very common thing for fairy.
I think some of the concerns that the committee had, and I'm curious to hear Smile's opinion on this also, and the rest of you here, is we felt that at the moment TMs were really playing a hard, like really strong place in wins for wars in general, and that really it wasn't really an attacker war, like the attackers were just there, but the TMs were really the concluders of getting a war to a war win condition where you would win in. So we're trying to I guess balance that in a place where it's not just about TMs in the game that win things, and so that's where we've kind of went with a little bit on the revised changes.
Yeah, now it seems
think
like
was taken out easy.
I think the TM balance that is odd for war is that attackers, you can approach attackers in like 8 different ways. You can kill their wages, their building efficiency, you can hit them armies in, you can raise all their buildings, you can ambush them, you can chain them. Whereas a TM, it's like you need to have a lot of offense and hit them 6 times. That's your way to deal with TMs.
I mean, you can have better TMs than them, or you have rogues to counter their mages, and you have mages to counter their rogues.
Yeah, but even then, how are you having a stronger TM unless you're sacrificing more defense than them? And if you're sacrificing defense compared to them, then we go back to you're getting hit 6 times. So, and you only need 103% offense over defense to break. You need a significant amount more T power to address a thief, or mage power to address a mage. And a lot of it isn't permanent damage.
I think just touching on, Stephen, your point and what Smiles was saying, we have increased a lot of the modifiers across the TMs, but we have altered the defense a little bit, but that opens up the opportunity. Yes, your TMs are still strong, but as Smiles is pointing out, there's more opportunities for attackers to think about how they can deal with TMs. It's not just a TM versus TM war. So we tried to give that opportunity there through those changes.
In my history of playing Uto, it's mostly been you've got your attackers early, and if you get ahead with them fast enough, then you're going to win. If you don't, and they have better TMs than you, then they're going to win. So how is that addressed? I guess is my question.
Yeah, look, I think one of the things we thought about is that there has been an overall defense drop with most of the TMs, and from that side of things, we were thinking that it puts a bit more risk on a TM. They can't just build a wall and that's it. That's the static TM for the rest of the age. We've tried to open a little bit more vulnerability on that side of things for them. So the only mechanic is exactly what you're saying, Stephen. A stronger TM takes down another TM. We want to give the opportunity for attackers not to just have fewer offense and they've just got to hit them down, that there are opportunities where they can maybe potentially raise them or other sides of things. And we haven't put them in a place where they're completely vulnerable, by the way. Like, I don't think that they're in that place. I still think that if you want a turtle as a TM, yes, you can do it, but you're not going to be able to easily just static straight out of a protection. That we don't really want that mechanic in the game, to be honest with you.
So it's just changing the meta. It's just now you got to run hybrids.
Well,
what I see from the changes,
yeah,
it's going to be harder to just set up unlimited TMs. Yes. Last Age was probably the biggest offender in a long time of every TM having the easiest time of their life. Everyone's got Tree of Gold. Several of them had bonus Tree of Golds. They've all got the exact same defense. They've all got Rev. Nobody ever had any trouble. They all had some sort of wizard production bonus. Now we're going back to a place in Utopia where setting up a strong TM takes time, it takes effort. If they get chained down one war, it's going to be a hard recovery process. So I'm pretty happy with that.
It's never been hard to get full leads after 2 wars. I mean, if you want to
but
change
it's
that,
hard when you're a rogue without wizard production and you've got to double explore, train 10 EPA, not run universities, get your wizards. Now we're back to that point where you kind of have to choose 2 or 3.
And then after the second war, you just run 60% guilds. But yeah,
you can't just run 60% guilds if you have to rebuild all your elites. Not every war is 48 hours.
Attack a bunch, if you got to tank.
Wow.
I think, and one of the other things that we've tried to do, Stephen, with the TM side of the things, is that we've tried to say, like, I mean, look, here's an example in Merciless in our kingdom at the moment is that we're trying to kind of weigh up, how important is that stealth mana bonus on the True Bloods versus, hybriding with, the bonuses, and we feel like that's kind of a good situation to be in to try and have to make that choice, whereas before we felt was a bit more clear cut in previous stages.
That makes sense. I mean, the main. I don't know if we're ready to move on. Are we?
Up to wind.
Feel free to keep talking, guys. I mean, this is just the initial conversation. Yeah.
The main reason I joined and asked to join was because I wanted to know why that we got rid of the mechanics changes to make wars easier, smaller range. Honestly, I haven't played WoW in an age and a half, and the changes that I saw in the prelims they made me interested again. And
look, it's no news to everyone that actually, it is news to me. We thought that the aggressor button would be poorly received by the community, but it actually seemed to be, from what I could see, the reverse. There was actually quite a lot of people excited by the prospect of it.
Still got rid of it.
Yeah, we still got rid of it.
That's my issue.
All I can say to that is we would have loved to keep it in. FFW and we would have loved to keep it in. Maybe next stage, hopefully.
What does that mean? Who
overruled everyone? David C just come in and be like, no, I'd like to keep having 2,000 players, please.
Well, look, I mean,
make some changes. I don't know.
The idea of that was kind of, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Stephen, is we were just touching on, is we were trying to give the opportunity for kingdoms to take a little bit more risk, but also not have to deal with dodging. And, if there's, let's take, for example, Merciless is doing really well and Smiles is right up on the back of us on war win points. He doesn't have to deal with the Diplo. He can go straight in on the aggressor button and we will have to wall him. So, and we thought that was actually going to be quite a good mechanic for the game. But yeah.
But somebody mixed it. What you saying?
I think there was concern for abuse. I'm simplifying that statement, but I think there was concern that we still couldn't get it exactly right.
There's always concern for abuse, but at some point, I mean, nobody likes the current mechanics for war in this game. At some point, you've got to take some chances and do something different. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then you change it the next spring. I don't get it.
It's not like it's not going to work for everyone, right? There's going to be a few people that have a bad time, a few people that have a good time, but how's that different than any age change?
Right.
All I can say, guys, is I wanted it to stay, but it's not. So hopefully, we might see if we can get it in next stage.
Oh, baby.
Hi, Benji. Can you hear me now?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we can hear you, Tristan.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, my mic died just now. No, I just wanted to comment on the race change, race in general. Actually, I pretty like the pure blood races as like halfers, elves, and the fairies, because it seems that going pure halfer is like the best rogue. You can actually prop the other hybrid rogues, which actually gives a interesting meta change where all the hybrids are now quite scared against all these pure TMs. At the same time, these pure TMs defense values are low, so they are open to the attacker. So there is like a rock paper scissors mechanic there, which actually quite balances the overall changes.
Yeah, I think it's kind of risk reward is really what we've tried to do, Twisting. And I'm really actually quite curious to hear people's thoughts on Half Elf and Fairy. If we hit, not saying we're going to make changes, but I am curious to hear what people think in terms of the changes from proposed to revise.
I mean, the best balance is again like rock paper scissors. Is something can eat the others, so there's no one true powerful race combination that can overpower everything. So there is quite a bit of balancing act, which I really do appreciate all your work you've given, and I think it is going to a direction which is very quite rejuvenating to the game.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to get things on time. That was one of our main goals this time, to get things out there on time, and we've done that as best as we can. And we're trying to get a bit more efficient with wall changes and make them meaningful and impactful. So I think it will head in the right direction now, in my opinion, with FFW assisting. I think you got to remember that obviously making changes and pleasing everybody, we just can't do that. We also have to think about what's right for the game. And that's just, we try to do what we can as best as we can with that balance. And I think revised is almost there. I think once we get to final, we might make a few slight tweaks that will make things a little bit better. But I think we're in the right place, and then hopefully with the aggressor button, we'll see how we go. Maybe that's something we can introduce into next stage. I don't think it'll be exact same form as what we proposed, but it'll be maybe something similar. We'll see.
Can we try our Genesis?
Go ahead, Tristan. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question, Twisting.
Oh no, can we try the aggressor butter on Genesis? So let's see how it goes.
That is a question that I have posed.
I'm asking right now in the age changes council.
Genesis is currently being played to be prepared for the Great Utopian War. So I don't think David's curious.
I mean, probably not appropriate for me to talk about it in this cast. I think that there are different views of how Genesis should be used, but yes, Twisting, I would like it to be tested in Genesis, just so we can see how it plays out. But I don't think it'll make it in this run. Maybe in a later gen run.
So I'm getting questions from a couple people just messaging
Sure.
me. You said you weren't interested in changing the mechanics for the war range and the auto war and being able to press the button if they were 90%. So who did that?
I think David wanted to make some changes at the last moment.
Yeah, I'm in his Genesis kingdom, so I'm gonna give him shit about that for sure.
You are welcome to do that, because it's not me.
Is it his Genesis kingdom or your Genesis kingdom?
Well, we already voted someone else monarch besides him. So.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised. No, he's great, but no, he's a very absentee landowner. That's for sure.
I think my only thing would say is the fact that we got it on the table, we got it into propose, is actually quite a big deal, to be honest with you. There needs to be a lot of credit given to FFW. Though he put a lot of effort into trying to think about how we could do it as in the most balanced way possible, and it wasn't even easy just to get it in there. So I do have hopes that we might be able to get it in next stage. I've already said that I won't be letting that just ride until we talk about it at the end of the day. It'll be an ongoing discussion.
At some point, you have to stop caring about balance. I mean, nobody's happy with the balance of the current one mechanics. So, if you do something different and it sucks, so what? I mean, try it. Is my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're open. I mean, for my part, I think there is definitely committee members that are very open to change. And I think, but we do try to find balance where we see things really strongly abused too. I mean, one of the things that we saw this age is the amount of stacking of sabotage and guile and op damage really had probably not the impact that was intended.
Things are abused every age, and mechanics haven't changed in years. I mean, change the mechanics and give it a shot, and that's basically my final say in it. I mean, if you fail, you fail. Things are abused every age. Everyone's going to find something to abuse. So give it a shot. But that was my main point I wanted to log on and say.
I think my favorite plus damage of the age was losing 60% stealth and 2 ETs.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a highlight
with Havoc
for sure.
and Guile and...
Can believe that.
I don't know how Guile and all those stacking damage mods even got in this age, considering how much it's been talked about over the last few ages.
Well, there was an interesting idea that we talked about, Smiles, I can't remember where it was, I have to go back on my chat logs, but I think we talked about the idea when we were thinking about the aggressor button and trying to reduce some of that abuse of changing ET and SW to maybe reduce your stealth regeneration and mana regeneration for a period of time. Probably an unpopular idea by the community, but we felt like maybe that was something we could maybe consider in the future if we do put an aggressor button in.
Yeah, so that's. Did you guys have any other key points that you wanted to make before we talked about races more in depth?
I guess they didn't really change much from proposed. We're mostly focusing on change from proposed to revised, not just overall.
Yeah, I think today's really just changed to propose to revise.
Okay.
Yeah, because as you know, the age changes, and age over age, there's a lot of changes that really make the game certain ways, and it's very easy for an age to go one way and not go the way you expected it to go. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like there's some damage bonuses taken away from your fairy, or again that from the fairy specifically, that population debuff. They'll feel that in their defense for sure. It won't be so easy just to stack up, as you were saying before. But I mean, if in between, when it comes down to true bloods and half-blood bonuses, I mean, I feel like they've also been nerfed quite a bit. Just looking at the elf side, for instance. I mean, let's just go down the list with all the TM type ones. I mean, for your half-blood, they used to get a 15% plus to WPA. Now they're only going to get 15% tower efficiency. I mean, that's
I think your
good.
mic just cut out there.
It's probably a connection issue. Is it working now? Yeah, you know what? There must be some issue with the microphone or some issue with the connection. It's probably my connection, actually.
Yeah, you seem to be alright now.
Awesome. Yeah, so definitely it looks like...
Yeah, the biggest thing I noticed from proposed to revised is that a lot of the half-blood bonuses I'm a lot less interested in.
Do you think that we tailed them back a little bit too much, Miles?
Yeah, with the exception of maybe halfling, I don't think I would take a half elf or a half fairy on any TM. I liked half-halfling before for their spells, so they lost some spells from proposed to revised. And just in general, I feel their strength's pretty, at least relative to the True Blood bonuses. Not sure why I would take the half-fairy or half-elf.
Yep. Yeah, we are looking at halfling. Not sure what we're going to do with it. We are toing and throwing halfling at the moment.
I think the half-halfling bonus is probably the best of the TM bonuses, but as a primary halfling, you're almost certainly going True Blood. So, the thing with the race I've noticed since the start is it's really hard to have 6, 7, 8 different viable TM picks. because it used to be you could go any TM race, any TM purse, and they all worked, and now been kind of tough.
Yeah,
like
I mean, race has been. You've found race very difficult to balance. That's been one of our major problems with race comparison to race personality.
It kind of, to be honest, it kind of looks like the way, especially with the TM side of things, it looks like everything was tried. They tried to make it, you guys tried to make it still OP, but just scaled it back a little bit. Really, that's all that happened here.
Still think we're in a place. I mean, and this is also a question to the group here, where you could comfortably pick, for example, half, and know that you're picking a real pure rogue role, or you could go something else in terms of a hybrid and not really lose out on it. I mean, I don't think a hybrid should be in the same strength as a pure. If that's what people are trying to get or hope to achieve, we would never obviously do that. The constant question, yourself, Wind, that we're trying to have in discussions at the moment is, do we just run pures, or do we, run a few hybrids and pures, and I think if that's the type of discussion that's going in at Kingdoms at the moment, I think we are hitting balance fairly well, I'm hoping. But this is more, I'm just curious to hear if other people are thinking, have we not done that with the revised, yeah.
I
Hi,
can
Benji.
see half elf or half halfling being picked on some attackers as like a hybrid pick, but within the TMs, I think most of the TMs are looking to be their own pure blood.
Yeah.
Sorry, Benji. Removing Revelation from Fairy kind of nerfed everything. If it's able to be put back onto Half-Blood, everyone will be thinking how to synergize back to Half-Blood Fairy again. But
So
if
here's my thoughts on TMs with Revelation. Okay, I'm not saying that this is the one truth. What we have found with TMs in general is that their potential to scale as they go through from the start of the age to the end of the age can be quite heavy-handed for them. Once they stack up their Psi, their Honor, and then having that inbuilt Revelation, we felt like removing that was probably the easiest change that wouldn't exactly severely damage the TM races. I mean, I don't think you'll actually notice a huge difference in my opinion. But I think also it does make pumping your wizardry or your thieves a bit more meaningful, rather than just focusing on science. So, look, I'm not saying that we wouldn't do it twisting. I still think Fairy is quite strong. I know that there's, as a side note, I've seen a lot of people really dislike the 10 pop change. And we are looking at Fairy, as I said, in final changes to see if we make some changes. But, we have simmed Fairy and in its current form to see what it can look like. And, it is still very, very strong. And so we have to be, you've got a 13, elite there. And that's one of the questions, do we drop the elite to 12 and, give you something as compensation to up it again? I mean, there's micro adjustments that we can make. And like I said, we might make some micro adjustments to Fairy, but I don't foresee that we're probably going to be bringing Rev back on the TMs this age. Maybe next age we might look at it like we change things. But I don't see it as game breaking.
Well,
no, I do like the change of fairies to 10 pop, because this is impacting them early game. They can't stack everything, and they have no goal yet to beat all the leads. So when they try to snowball to late, they can use the science to compensate some of the pop loss. So
one of the other approaches.
Sorry, if the Revelation is actually just a big problem, why not we just nerf Revelation? Instead of the current bonus, we drop it by half. And we see how it goes.
Well, I mean, we've removed Revelation, and we have nerfed it in End of War CF too, the book production. So, we have made some quite drastic changes to a science perspective. I mean, we could take the other approach, we just give Revelation to everyone. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to hear what Smiles you think.
I think TMs already have the worst psi in the game. I think if any kingdom that does a few learn waves, their attackers have better science than all of their TMs, if the changes are good for learning. In the last 4 ages, I've had cores with up to double my TM science, and that's with my TMs running a lot of unis all age long. So I think you could have a big problem this age where, yeah, the science difference gets really extended, especially if there's learning going on, especially if you just target TMs, they have no way of coming back on science. On the other hand, when you're not focusing on universities early, you have a lot more early wizards, you're going to be more pumped early on, you're going to get more early honor. I think when people are going to run less TMs in general, though who knows, you're going to see them set up better, higher land. So I think it's going to be a bit more up to people to make their TM successful, rather than they just have everything handed to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation I've said in my kingdom. I said anyone that's taking a TM role next stage, don't expect it to be like how it ever has been before. You're picking probably one of the roughest roles to play. You know, I've said to them, you know, expect to be learned, expect to get hit often.
I figured out my own way to get an aggressor button. I'm just gonna threaten to bounce and then learn your TMs if you don't war me. You can't get that science back, but you can always, you know, do something else.
Attack somebody else for their science.
Actually, let me hop on to this science conversation. I'm looking at my science in my kingdom right now. So my average TM has about 6 million books right now, with Revelation this age. The top is obviously Science 4, 9 million books. So 50% more than our average TM, and we do have a few attackers, which is way above the 6 million books right now. So obviously we've been doing a couple of learn this age, but at the same time, what I also found, not this age, but the previous age, is that Fountain of Knowledge was actually the better generator. We had a human back then, and we found that FOK really do give more books rather than Revelation.
I think it's a consistent performer, and you know, if you're active and you can play FOC well and learn, you know, yeah, you can do really well. I mean, in our kingdom, we do probably have more predominantly attackers at the top twisting in terms of our science, total books at the end of the age, but we do have TMs also up there. But I think also I'm not really counting that as a benchmark, because you know, the people that I have at the top are, you know, humans.
Don't forget the growth kingdoms.
Did you want to go through the races, Wind? I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah, no, that's the only issue. I don't want to keep you guys too long. I also would like to go to sleep at some point.
He's disappeared.
But can you hear me now? Hello? Can you guys hear me now? You know what? I just have a bad, really bad connection until now for some reason. The
squirrels.
Yeah, it's the freaking squirrels, man. They're probably chewing on the power lines outside or something. All right. Yeah. So anyway, before I get disconnected again by Discord, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I'm conscious about, Benji, is the time frame. But yeah, I mean, is there any other races that really stand out that feel like, I mean, attackers don't really seem like anything's really changed too much with them. I mean, they're still kicking butt. But going back to the TM side of things, I also noticed just in the changes here, and I've got it up on the screen, there's no magic column anymore, and the magic column in the proposed changes was fireball damage has been reduced by 10%, exposed thieves damage reduced by 25%, and made only available in war. Nightmare moved to war only, but it doesn't seem like those are going to be a thing anymore, because in the proposed changes those are gone. So there's a slight buff to all your TMs, people, because fireballs and exposed thieves, I mean, everybody should be using that. And I've seen
nerf your TMs, because they're the ones casting those things.
Yeah. Exactly, and I mean, like I said, the proposed changes was everything was kind of OP, especially the TMs. So it only makes sense that they took away like their star power essentially, except for Halfling. Halfling could still really make it work. I don't think people realize how devastating propaganda actually is. Some kingdoms do, but not everybody.
Well, and the halfling and propaganda thing is that really scales hard on honor and pop space because your gains are directly tied to your thieves. So if you can run 8 TPA instead of 6, you're getting 33% more gains. If you're running 10 instead of 8, and so on.
Yep.
That's the
100%.
only op in the game that scales with your population. So.
Yeah, so besides that, was there anything else that really stood out or that's been changed to anyone, or that you just want to mention about the changes? I mean,
well, look, only minor stuff. We gave birthright bonus to affluent. Obviously, the aggressive button was removed. The war win points hidden until the end of the age. Everything else is really more micro adjustments.
I didn't like a lot of the revised race changes on attackers. I think I saw more again. Your half bonuses aren't being as strong. You nerf avian. Don't know why. You buff orc. I don't know why.
love orcs.
Like at this point, you're gonna just have a bunch of true blood orcs. Best I can tell.
I think we're hearing 2 camps at the moment, Smiles. And we're hearing the first camp really wants our proposed changes back. And we have a small camp that is saying that revised is alright. Like I said too, I think we are still looking at making some tweaks here and there overall to the final, more than what we usually would from revised to final. But yeah, look, balancing and doing changes is not easy. So we're doing the best we can. But yeah.
I think the True Blood versus Half Blood balance got pushed a little bit more into. I see very few Half Bloods for attacker or TM or a hybrid that I really want to pick.
So is your concern
where opposed, I was happy with.
I was gonna say
a lot of picks.
Is your concern more that the half bloods in the proposed were more meaningful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, this looks perfect for me. As a core attacker, I have absolutely no problem with any of these changes. I love it. I can't wait to smash up all these TMs. I hope it doesn't change too drastically for finals. I'm sure plenty is going to change, or it's going to look very different. So only time will tell. And we are actually going to have a live cast of that on Friday night, EST, when that actually happens. But depending on which side of the world you're on, might be a different story. It could be 2 in the morning. It could be 12 hours from 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. depending on where you live. But we are going to have it, and it will be recorded, so you can listen to it whenever you want on YouTube. But be sure to join in to the chat, or post any messages on YouTube. I'll do my best to relay them to the group. But again, everyone, remember this is only the the revised changes. There's still the final changes coming. To be honest, I like the idea of being able to smash TMs. Why doesn't everyone just run more attackers? I'm not sure, but I would be perfectly happy just running very few TMs with maybe some rogues, but mostly attackers.
I think you will see more attackers. I think you will see. We're going to see more attackers this age. I think, in my opinion, less TMs, and probably a little bit more of the hybrids.
You know what that means?
My personal advice to kingdoms is you need more attackers this age.
It means there's going to be more free books out there, Benji. I'm going to learn so many people. As every attacker should. Like Smiles was saying, TMs are probably the worst at gaining science. They have to rely on the Warwind science, or whatever they can actually put into their universities, for instance, to generate books, or whatever the building is that generates books that age.
No, look, I think it's good feedback from Smiles and Twisting. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective that they've given, so I will take that back to the committee around the revelation. Yeah.
Yeah, Revelation, I mean, has always been like a TM thing. I mean, maybe Human gets it from time to time, but, TM's usually always rocking that. I mean, it's one of their extra little cherries on top that makes them that much stronger, especially mid to late age. So, I mean, you're kind of you're just taking away a little bit of the power, but, they're already kind of overpowered as it is. So, I mean, TMs are always going to be powerful. It, again, comes down to how you play the province, how the kingdom structures your provinces, in the lineup to make sure that you're in the right positions. It's all about planning and things like that. So, I mean, it all comes down to how you play the province. No matter what the changes are, bonuses are bonuses. Looks like Charles Maximus wants to talk. This should be awesome. What's going on, Charles Maximus? You gotta click this thing. A lot of dwarf this age, absolutely. True Blood Dwarf specifically. With all the attackers, the True Blood Dwarf looks even better. As you get chained and overpop, being able to build those acres will drastically help you manage the chain and not release. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you put all your science into the artisan science or whatever it's called. And you get that additional buff if you really want that reduced building time and don't care about losing the cost aspect, but still reduced building time is always better. I'm not telling you how to play your province, but that's a good direction to take that one. Other than that, it doesn't look like Soul Whitkin says Orc smash. I agree 100% with you. Orc definitely wants to smash next stage. That's going to be me. But other than that, did you guys have anything else you wanted to say tonight before we end the show?
No, I mean it was good to hear all those questions. I think Orc smash for sure. But a 15 SE penalty, I think it's not a small thing, guys. Really think about it. I will go back and have a look at. I'm just taking notes as we sort of speak here around Avian. Maybe we need to look at the half-blood bonus for that a bit more. Human, how do people feel about Human in its current form? Actually, I think it might be good if we can just systematically go through each race, because I'm curious to hear from Smiles, Twisting, and others here, just some quick points so I can just take them down. So do you mind if we quickly do that?
Yeah, for sure. So with regards to True Blood bonuses, I mean, the only thing really different for Avian is that they are gaining clear sight. They still get their +1 general. On the half-blood bonus side, they get the attack time still. The birth rate's only nerfed by 5%. Still have accurate
Correct.
espionage. I mean, nothing's really changed there. Those are still great numbers. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen an Avian that has that exact... this was one age. This was the Avian's bonuses. So you're definitely
I think
not
moving the
losing
CS
out
to
on it.
True Blood only is a pretty big change there.
Yeah, having
I
clear
think-
sight excites me. Definitely.
Because
The thought process behind that was that, I think FFW and I in particular find that CS is probably one of the strongest spells in the game from a mitigation perspective. And so we felt that, if it was going to stay in Avian, that it was better placed as a True Blood bonus. I think if we were to leave it as into the primary or a half blood, it would just be too strong in my opinion.
That's right. You have Hawkeyes.
So we're not saying you can't have it, yeah, sure, you can have it, but you then go pure Avian then.
Yeah, absolutely, and that'll definitely help you out with that propaganda. Not telling you how to play the game.
Dryad, want to do that one next?
Yeah, we're gonna move on to Dryad now. All right, so let's look at Dryad here. I've just got it up on the screen. So last time they got the True Blood bonuses were -1 mana cost on self spells, access to fanaticism and hero's inspiration, minus 10% sabotage and instant spell damage received. No.
Change the penalty to gains instead of the BE.
Yeah, and then so the changed is they still get the mana cost reduction. You still have fanaticism and hero's inspiration, but now they're immune to dragons. I mean that's pretty nice. Pretty much
Also gained an
all
offense.
around. Yeah, and
Sorry, Smells?
they also gained an offense.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. They got a 14 and 5 elite now versus the 13 and 5 from before. So again, Dryad. We might see some kingdoms of slow-moving Dryads this age, or even some half-blood avian Dryads. That's a very possible thing to go with as well. Other than that, if you look at the half-blood bonuses, before it was can cast support spells on kingdom members, access to greater protection, eliminating shadows of divine shield, minus 10% military casualties. None of that's actually changed on the new side, so unaffected by changes here on Dryad. We can move on to Dwarf now. Let's just take a quick look. We'll actually pay attention to the military numbers now. It looks like Dwarf gained a +1 to the defensive side of their elite at a 0.5 net worth increase as well because of that. This is all the finer details you can look at later, but it looks like Dwarf is now getting Ghost Workers and still gets free construction on their True Bloods, whereas before they were getting a +20% to defensive WPA, which is pretty substantial, especially late age, even for an attacker such as this one. Minus 10% instant spell damage received, so that's those fireballs and nightmares. Free construction and raise. That kind of made them OP, but now they don't, as I said, they only get the free construction. On the Half-Blood side, we're looking at a similar, the same construction time, minus 25%. We only took 5% off the BE. Still has access to Mist. So again, a great attacker here. Still a very beefy elite. This is actually uncommon for Dwarf to have such an offensive heavy elite. It looks like there's going to be a lot more offense swinging around this age.
I think Dwarf will be an interesting choice for people. You'll be playing a certain style, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think that's what we've gone for with Dwarf. And I think it will probably change a little bit of the meta in terms of what we've done with Dwarf.
Yeah, other than that, it doesn't look like anything else has changed on Dwarf. So let's move down to Elf.
I'd like to comment on the pure blood changes. I think you really did a good balance. If not, the pure blooded will have become too hard to actually, up down or chain down. With that defensive WPA remove and a negative 10% spell, then remove it. It becomes a lot more balanced, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was our concern when we did it first. We were like, maybe we overtuned this a bit too much, so that's why we removed it.
Also remember, Ghost Workers. Ghost Workers is a very nice spell to have, especially when you're getting, for instance, if you're getting fireballed. I mean, it kind of makes up for the instant spell damage reduction you had before, but it's slightly better because you can use Ghost Workers in a few different scenarios. Let's move on to Elf. Alright, so, nothing's really, changed too heavily on the True Blood bonuses or the Half-Blood bonuses. Guild effectiveness is still there. The WPA, okay, that was a bit of a nerf, giving them towers, so it gives them a bit of...
Big changes the defensive elite for Elf.
Yeah, I think that's the thing there. That's again uncommon for Elf not to have a super powerful defensive specialist.
It's
and also
pretty much the biggest nerf to TMs this age is from the revised giving them defensive elite.
Yeah,
that's like 30% of your end of war ceasefire land just going into banks now.
Yeah, I mean it's and that's kind of Elf looks like again one of those races that you just play to convert for defense essentially. So you'd have your base defensive specialists and then just train mostly offensive and convert them.
We adjusted. The thought process with Elf was that we adjusted the army statistics to be more similar to the old Dark Elf that we've got right now. So that was kind of the thought process from proposed to revised.
I like that they need to spend acres of banks now, so no longer can just pump WPA assigns only, because elves needed these specs which cost so much lesser. But also I like the removal of the True Blood bonus of that 20% instant. I mean, they already have already +1 mana. That in itself is great. Then you couple with that plus instant damage. Wow, and it was quite okay in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I mean,
exactly.
that was our concern, and that's why we pulled it back. But also, you know, spell duration is that's a no joke bonus. Like, I know last age people thought that, you know, when we talked about it, they were like, oh, that's a bit ho hum, but no, it's spell duration.
That's crazy.
Really.
Crazy bonus.
Yes, we received 16-day MS in the war, so yeah, ouch.
8-day chas, baby. 8-day chas.
Nice. Yeah, that's a very, very high chastity number. But yeah, definitely, now that you mention it, it does look like a dark elf and an elf were smashed together here, and that's how you got their offensive specialist +1. That's kind of a dark elf thing. Defensive specialist, that's again what would be their D-spec elites. Same thing, essentially. I mean, fairy kind of would look the same, maybe just 10-10 even. Commonly, you know, to give you a perspective from a different TM side of things. Other than that, you know, you really like this extra plus 20% spell damage and WPA that they, you know, they could have had an option to get. That's a very devastating. I mean, for the half blood, that means you're passing your spells more often. Instant spell damage, it means, let's just say in war, you know, every 1,000 peons that you fireball, it's an extra 200. Let's just say, right? That doesn't include any of your other bonuses or anything else, or guile or something like that you could possibly cast, you know, or Mage's Fury or something like that to change things. But you know, again, if you have it, again, the spells haven't changed. It seems like, you know, they lost the revelations, and they don't have war spoils anymore. But this is more of now a non-attacker. I mean, you could probably still play this as like maybe Elf Dryad or something like that would be a good combination.
I think Elf is in a good place, balance-wise, personally. I don't
Elf
think we
looks
really
pretty
need to
good.
doing. Yeah,
Happy
I don't think
with
it's. I don't think
I missed the
it's okay.
WPA on the half-blood elf, because that WPA goes a long way when you're trying to run, like, I don't know, an orc elf sort of thing. The guilds is definitely your best bonus for doing that sort of hybrid thing, but WPA is a little bit of icing on that cake.
Yeah, definitely having access to Meteor Showers and Blizzard, those are two nice spells. Absolutely. It doesn't look like, you know, net worth went up by 0.25% as well on the elite units. Everything else remains unchanged other than what we talked about. So let's move on to Fairy here. Fairy, we'll just go from the top. It looks like Fairy gets a minus 50% spell rune cost, excluding the ritual. That's important. People always ask that question. Minus 50% wizard losses, minus 50% thief losses, and plus 50% wizard production. The only thing that was changed there was the minus 33% spell rune cost. Doesn't say excludes ritual, but that would make sense. You know, it kind of offsets for the ritual a little bit, but I guess we decided to just do 50% and make you pay full price for the ritual. Other than that, you still get the wizard production. Starts with the same thieves and wizards. I mean, this is kind of starting to feel like a heretic kind of, you know, role that you'd be playing here. When you look at the spell book, it tells you the same thing. And again, all we talked about, you know, before, minus 10 to income. That's kind of a slap in the face. That really doesn't really do anything. Minus 10% population, that's a real penalty. You know, we're not just sitting on these like perfect provinces anymore. You know, you actually have to think about your combinations a little bit. You know, other than that, we talked about the fact they lost their revelation. They still get Tree of Gold. They get Nightmares, Vermin, Gluttony, Sloth, Magic Ward, and Fool's Gold. Those are all great spells. They'll help you out a lot if you actually use them. Looking at the offensive specialist, again, as I said, your fairy, they actually gained +1 offense here, but this is a more common fairy setup, is a 10-10, and a more defensive elite. Looks like they lost, again, 1 offensive point off the elite as well, and actually 0.25 net worth was taken away as a result of that +1 being taken. Arcane book production, it's kind of weak because science is going to be weak this age probably, so those kind of, again, doesn't really do anything. Before you get Mage's Fury still, increase to sabotage damage, increase to instant spell damage was added, so both plus 15%. So again, this is your heretic style province, just to oversimplify it.
I'd be curious to hear from Twisting, Smiles, and others, if anyone wants to, what they actually think of Fairy from Revised to propose.
Yeah, it's got 3.5 mana and 3.5 stealth. Your halfling is 4 stealth. Your elf is 4 mana. And then, you know, halfling, at least the true blood, super relevant. I think the fairy's struggling a bit. It's not the end of the world. 10% population basically means 1 less elite, 1 less thief, 1 less wizard. Everything else is going to be the same. And that works out fine. The +1 elite, you're going to have the same defense. With thief losses and wizard losses, after a couple days of war, you're going to have the same TPA and WPA.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. It's essentially an in-between province. You know, you're meant to attack an attacker cores, which there will be plenty of, so plenty of that to do. You won't be going up against pure TMs with a province like this. I mean, so those spell bonus damage and instant damage, sabotage damage is kind of useless on that side of it, but still very, very useful against your core attackers.
I think it mostly comes down to how you're using the spell rune cost. If you're using that effectively and it's, you know, a main pinning of your thing, then your fairy will be good. If you're just picking a fairy because you want fairies, I'm not really sure I'm into it. It's nice to have at least someone with Fool's Gold. Sure. Nightmares, I'm just not into nightmares these days, but if you have a lot of fairy doing a lot of cheap nightmares, you know, that's a great way to crown really easily, but otherwise...
We have thought about putting maybe like a -20 or -25% rune cost onto the half-blood bonus.
Yeah, that would...
We're still thinking about it, and if we were to change the pop, it's not going to come out without its costs. So, you know, let's say we take it down to -5 pop, because I know everyone's asked me that. You know, we would take it down to -5 pop, but we would drop the elite maybe to 12 or something, and move Tog to, you know, True Blood. Like, there would be costs for it. So, you know, it's not going to be perfect, is what I'm saying.
I think the True Blood took a double whammy from the proposed revise, because they lost the Arcane book production and they lost Revelation. So if Revelation could be put back onto True Blood, maybe that would mitigate some of the losses, especially with the negative 10% pop.
The problem with putting Revelation, and this is just my opinion, I'm obviously keen to hear from you guys. If we put Revelation onto Fairy as a True Blood, we're only putting Halfa and Elf back further. And Fairy just becomes, you know, the #1 choice for TM, which we're trying to avoid. So, you know, if we do Revelation, in my opinion, we would have to do it for the, you know, the 3 of them. So, yeah.
Just reading some comments.
Then,
go ahead.
Why not just put back the +10% Arcane book production?
The small thing. Maybe. It's not going to make a big difference either way.
Yeah, like as you said, book production and ceasefire's gone down significantly, so that you know will affect any book production. I mean, 10% could make a difference, but it's still gonna be small.
Yeah, I'll take that back actually to the big committee.
But the thing with the you got your elf, your halfling, your fairy, all their True Blood bonuses are really just directly into power. Elf 25% spell and +1 mana, you're getting a lot of extra mana power out of that. Your fairy, you're getting your bonus damage. Your halfling, you're getting your extra stealth. But if you look at their half bonuses, if you want to go a elf fairy or a fairy elf, you're getting really like economical bonuses. You're getting land for the most part on all 3 of them, and that just it doesn't do a lot for being in war. So you're just going to see a lot of True Bloods, I think. Which is not all bad. It's just that now you have one pick for Thief, you have one pick for Nightmares, and one pick for Meteor Showers, and you don't really have any other options at all. Like, I don't really see many attacker half fairies or elves happening, and I don't really see many elf fairies or fairy elves happening. I think halflings got the most potential to be half-blooded, because TDs go a long way. But then you can't really go halfling something else because you need the pop for defense, so...
I'm taking note of it. You know, everyone, you're not the first one that's brought it up to me, Smiles, about the half-blood stuff, so we'll see what we can do. I don't want to be in a situation where everyone just goes pure blood, because it's the logical choice. I want us to be in a place where it's, you know, hard to pick between half-blood and pure blood. And if we feel that maybe we've diluted half-blood a little bit too much, maybe that's something we can change. I'll take that back to the committee.
Yeah, so we can move on to halfling now. Let me just adjust the screen. If you guys, unless someone had any more comments about fairy, again, doesn't seem like too much has changed. Honestly, the population thing is very easy to work around. Again, not going to tell you how to play your province, but very easy to counter that. And you know, there are ways to do it, and not necessarily just with science. So moving on to halfling, you still get your 30% TPA. You get an additional 100% Thieves' Den effectiveness. I've got to say, so far, it's looking like a great age for propaganda. Great age to be a thief, a rogue. Sorry. It's going to be good times. Halflings and fairies are going to have a lot of fun this age. Let's move on. You get 50% reduction in thief costs as opposed to only 25% before. Again, another buff to halfling. Access to propaganda, assassinate wizards, blah blah blah. The regular stuff starts with 800 thieves, so you can steal stuff right away out of the gate. No access to hospitals doesn't really make them as a very good attacker necessarily, but again, there's no undead, so you don't really need hospitals. Just train more, make more, you know, people, kidnap them if you have to. I don't care. Looks like they lost their revelation. We've already talked about that. Let's see, their defensive specialists, offensive specialists are all the same. Elite, looks like they used to have a very dwarf-like elite 10-10, now only a 10-6. 6.25 net worth versus 8 net worth, so your halflings are going to be on the smaller end of the net worth scale. Very easily attacked by attackers, but also very dangerous to them. They still have a lot of thieves as they're coming down, and they can, you know, do a bunch of props or something later in the age or mid-age even. So definitely, you know, think we're going to see a lot of rogues next stage, or pure halflings. Let's just call it like it is. Other than that, looks like they lost their Thieves' Den effectiveness, which is actually quite a big bonus. 100% before that would have made it OP, I think, Genesis style. Train Thieves with credits, that's awesome. Plus 10% population. You know, you can very easily backfill those losses from any hospitals. You know, anything the hospitals would have helped you, and plus 10% population, so many other bonuses. I don't think I need to explain that to anybody. Plus, other than that, you know, on the half-blood side, the fact that they lose the plus 20% TPA, I think, like Smiles was saying before, that's going to hurt. You know, any half-bloods we're going to see in the game. The Thieves' Den effectiveness, though, that's probably enough to make up for it. I don't think people will see it that way, though. Thief costs on the half-blood, but 25. Okay, so they still get the reduction, like the original thief costs from before. So they get that as opposed to the 50% thief cost, or?
Major changes that we did. I've got my notes here. We added thief bonus to the right primary. We decreased thief costs further. We removed revelation.
So you get an additional 25% to thief costs for half blood.
That's for the half blood, dude.
Yeah, for the half blood. That's sweet. Yeah, okay. So you know what? That actually looks pretty good.
The only thing that we've been
significantly worse than proposed Half-Blood Halfling. Blood Halfling was probably the best thing in the game.
Yeah, we're going back and forth on Halfling at the moment. It's not an easy one to kind of fix what we want to do, because we don't just want to be in the same situation as Fairy, where we just make Halfling the prime choice. But we've talked about the idea. Of maybe do we move the stealth to prime, but do we drop prop on a half-blood bonus?
I don't think any non-super thief is using prop or is really a problem.
Yeah,
Anyways.
and that's why we were kind of like, is it really going to be meaningful if we move prop from a half-blood bonus? So
depends what you want out of it. Do you want the half-bloods to be options for like hybrid attackers, or do you just want the picks between the TMs, or ideally do you want that to be both?
I think the concern that we have with Hatha right now, and I'm curious to test this with this group here, is that we're worried that the only choice really to play, kind of what you were just alluding to then, Smiles, a super thief properly, or any type of thief, is to have the stealth. And therefore you would need to go Hatha Pura. We're thinking, if we put stealth on the primary, that could give that opportunity for hybrids still to be hybrids, but is it too strong? Those are things we're thinking about. We've had a lot of people say, put the pop on the prime. We think that's a really bad idea. It just would be too strong in my opinion. But yeah, we will probably make maybe some subtle changes to Halfling, but whatever they are, I don't think there'll be negative changes. I think there'll be more tweaks than anything else.
I think if you want them attacking, you can change that half-blood thief cost into credits. So your credits are pretty significant. If you've got TD, that goes a long way. Having either the Invis or the Quick Feet goes a long way. If you had Invis only on half-blood, that's enough to make it an attractive pick for Elf or Fairy or a Core. I don't know if that's even too strong. Invis got really absurdly good when they doubled its effect a while back.
Yeah.
Or more than doubled it. Used to be just 10 TPA if I'm right. Now it's 20 TPA and 20 thief loss.
Yeah.
Huge bonus.
Maybe we just keep up the bonus but remove the losses.
Sort of weird to have quick feet on the halfling other than for flavor. I don't see them attacking past the first war anyways.
It's really just for flavor.
Yeah. Anyhow, I'm fine with flavor.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely still though. I could see a use for this. I could see a way to play this halfling as an attacker, especially as a half-blood. I mean that would be totally possible. But unless anyone had any more comments about halfling, we can move on to human.
Yeah,
Well,
actually,
it partly goes
for
back to other
halfling-
half bonuses, so if they're not buffed, then it's going to be hard to dip into them.
Sorry, Twisting, you were saying something?
Oh yeah, the quick fit or removal. I think quick fit was a bit a tad too aggressive because that is the Avian's bonus. It's 15% faster attack. If that was still on halfling, I think we will have seen the entire server on hybrid orc halfling because they have speed, they have the attack, and they can thief. So
Yeah.
that was quite a good removal, I feel.
Okay, cool. Human it is. Talk human.
Absolutely. All right, so let's check out the human. Looks like you still get your 30% income. You get your science effectiveness 10%. Looks like you start with your 2,500 books in each category still. Looks like the wording was just changed around there. Other than that, it looks like Hero's Inspiration was taken away from human. Definitely a nerf there. Otherwise...
Yeah, we removed Hero's Inspiration, we removed the banks from the True Blood bonus, and we just slightly reduced the half-blood income bonus.
And you dropped the free scientist.
We did, yes.
So yeah, human got nerfed in 3 ways. And Dryad and Orc both got their offense buffed, so I don't know if everyone was saying human was super strong before, but it's certainly relatively weaker.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm biased, so I say this because I am just with that caveat, because Win knows I've played human quite a few times now. Human is probably going to be a mid to late game powerhouse if used properly. So I think we're being very careful with how we balance them right now. I don't think we'll probably do anything further to them because I do think they are quite strong. Yeah.
They absolutely look very strong with a 13.5 elite and only 7 net worth, keeps them in perfect range of just about everybody. Looks like their war horses are worth 3. Is everybody's war horses worth 3? I wasn't really paying attention.
No, everyone else's 2.
Everyone else's 2. That's what I thought. Okay, that's another common thing for human as well. Library effectiveness. I think people discount library still a little bit too much. Especially mid to late game still, there is a lot of value in running 5 to 10% libraries, especially late game, regardless of how much science you have. University effectiveness, always good, but again, only if you have, I think it protects science books now, having university, so that's good, I guess, as well. Other than that, as you said, on the half blood side of things, you could see reason like income bonus is nice, but being immune to all income penalties is way better. Plus science effectiveness, again, that's only really beneficial late age. Access to fountain of knowledge, still, that's a very nice thing to have, absolutely. Again, human is definitely one of those mid to late age provinces, as Benji was saying as well. For sure. Other than that, I don't see any real reason not to play human. It's definitely going to be out there.
Definitely.
But the minus to WPA...
Humans have had learn protection for quite a few ages. I think people have been used to being able to one-way learn people.
Yeah.
100% Smiles.
Yeah.
I think people might forget that humans actually kind of suck if they're just trading hits.
Yeah, absolutely. I count the times I found it.
I thought it was weird that they had wages and HI before, because, well, why? But, between wages and their late come on, they're going to really struggle before they come online.
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
Anyone that's considering human, it's going to be a high investment race in terms of your time and planning. And if you are playing it right, you will be rewarded. If you are not playing it right, you will not be rewarded.
Have we seen that sort of 20 or 30% income bonus anytime recently?
No, not for a while.
Yeah, I think people forget how much money that is as well.
Yeah, human used to be really banky, and then kind of banky sciencey, and then purely science based.
I guess Dryads 4 ages ago had the income. It's the last time we saw it. So
yeah, I think you're probably right there.
It kind of balances the wages in war, but pre-war you're looking scary, and if you're not being controlled in war, suddenly you've just got dragons and wages and draft. Oh my!
Yeah.
Don't go into out of op protection as a human core thinking you're gonna beat Nor core, because it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, and one thing still, that WPA, if you don't pump your wizards enough for somebody else that pumps you, their core is going to be able to fireball you. And with those wages, those two debuffs stack kind of on top of each other, because those extra wages, when you lose your peasants, obviously you're not able to pay your wages, so that happens really quickly. I mean, there's no army lock anymore, but you can still lose your effectiveness just by not paying your wages or not having money to pay. Everything goes downhill from there. So human is definitely going to be very easy a target for TMs, that's for sure. So again, like you said, you have to play it properly. It's going to be high investment. It's going to suck at the very beginning, especially if you've never played it before and you're not too sure what you're doing. Human, probably not the best choice for you. Just going to say that.
But if everyone's running 30 universities anyways, it's kind of the best economic bonus early in terms of how much land you're getting out of it.
Definitely.
And with income, you can do a lot early age with humans with those sort of bonuses in a just hanging out sort of situation.
Yeah.
I think when you get into the weeds, though, yeah, you've got issues for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
To Orc.
Yeah, so let's
Orc.
move on to the best
The smashiest
one
of the races.
in all of them. Yeah. All right, so it looks like they get a reduction to their enemy military casualties. However, they get a plus 5% to combat gains. Military wages reduction, so kind of the inverse to humans there. Instead of the minus 25% military training time, that would have just made them a little bit OP. Minus the science effectiveness. Yeah, it's well, you backfill your troops so easily. Like if you get aided down from another province, you could easily backfill your D-spec, for instance, on your orc if you had a reduction in military training time. You could easily build up enough defense to block a bunch of attackers. Let's say if you're able to train your military back before their wave comes back. That's just an example. Other than that, it looks like orcs spec stayed the same. Elite unit got a +1, usually at the cost, it seems, of a 0.25 net worth points. Other than that, mercenary prisoner warhorse is all the same. Free draft. They still get their bloodlust. On the half-blood side, basically the only thing that's changed is the minus 15% training time, and again the minus 10% military wages.
So, the only thing that we're really thinking about at the moment is have we dropped the wages? Have we overtuned them too much? That's kind of our thought process at the moment. But we're
minus wages is one of the best attacker bonuses in the game. Because so much of your power comes from wages. So, I mean, everyone has access to that with your new onslaught. So there's a little bit of, well, maybe it is what it is. Psi penalty is also one of the worst penalties in the game, so you gotta balance things somehow.
Yeah, like SE minus 15 is not a joke.
I've seen worse still work, so you've had minus 20 undead doing pretty well, and I prefer Bloodlust to Plague almost any day of the week, so.
Bloodlust.
Bisting, what did you think of Orc?
It's possible his mic lost connection again, or for some reason he can't hear.
I think cutting back the casualties is probably smart. 20%'s pretty strong when you've got Bloodlust. So that helps balance things a bit. But, yeah, Human got nerfed quite a bit. Dryads, I'm not sure what Dryad's gonna do as a pure attacker. Just kind of okay at everything.
It's your support caster kind of province.
Back to Dryad, the bonus production is the same way it's always been. It's affecting capacity and effects.
Let's see what Dryad here.
Actually, it doesn't even include homes in that list, so we've got to standardize the language on that sort of bonus, because we've seen it written out like 10 different ways in 10 ages with slightly different bonuses.
Maybe it's a typo. I don't really think of humans. I don't really count humans. Humans and peons as a flat rate production building. It's more like things that produce resources.
I don't think homes are incled.
But
it
was
I
on
get
Dwarf
for
ages ago. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I get where you're coming from. I'll take it back.
Yeah, it makes sense. So
like you got avians quite a bit nerfed from before. They lost attack time, birth rate, minus 10 BE, and avians are the attacker that needs the most buildings because they're not running stables. So you got nerfed avians, you got nerfed humans, and buffed orcs, and nerfed nerfed dwarves, nerfed humans, nerfed avians, buffed dryads and orcs. I think it's leaning pretty orky right now.
Smash.
I feel like the science is a big thing, but when the TMs are losing a lot of their science as well, not super worried about core science versus core science.
Yeah, I mean, let's just put it this way: if your core has can learn up to like 15
I'll take the
million
revelation
books.
type science thing back to TMs.
Yeah, what I mean, like if you have twice as many books as
I would like to
every
see some
TM, then you're very
other
likely.
core pretending to be TM.
That would be funny.
Twisting's back, by the way, Wind.
Oh, he is perfect.
Uh,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be happy to play Orc if I can. I love Bloodlust. Anytime there's Bloodlust on a regular core, I've picked it for the last, like, 15 ages, so...
Actually, yeah, I think Bloodlust is quite strong. So maybe if you actually include as your own military casualties as a penalty, it might spice up the game for Orc, because they are going to be the glass cannons. They're already expected to be tanking this age with, an Orc Smash. But if you give them that plus 10 own casualties, it's going to make people think twice when to cast Bloodlust, because Bloodlust itself increases your own casualties. And then when you get hit with Bloodlust on WoW, that's gonna really leave you down in the dirt.
Yeah,
I
look,
don't know
mean,
if you need more penalties than science effectiveness, though.
But yeah, we removed the casualty penalty because the SE penalty we thought was pretty harsh. I don't think we'll reintroduce it. I think what you got to remember is that yes, Orc Smash, Orc Power is strong. Yes, Orc will kill. But I think you have to think about what that would look like mid to late game. As an Orc, and I think they're still going to be very vulnerable to ops. I'm not saying they don't play Orc, but go play Orc. But I think they're in a good place, and yeah, they've got 16 offense, but they only have, as Win was just saying before, 3 defense on their elite, so they're very vulnerable in that way.
It's better than having more defense, less net worth.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but maybe I might go back and look at Avian again, Smiles at the attack time. I still think Human doesn't need changes though, in my opinion. I'm not sure.
It's good not to have overpowered humans, because you don't notice until it's too late, and you can have half the server just kind of give up, because why bother?
I see Human as the same situation with pure Halfling. Like, people are saying, Halfling sucks, but until somebody starts propping them for ridiculous amounts, then you hear it in Muga chat. Like, I think Halfer is needing some slight tweaks, but I don't think they're by any means not playable.
I have a comment from the chat room here. Does no dungeons for Elf make too much of a difference with a non-attacking elite? I guess it makes a difference in the beginning. It lowers their potential maximum offense, really.
Yeah, dungeons are really nice, but they're not be all end all. They're just cute. They help. They're a little bonus that everyone has, and you notice them more when you don't have them, other than anything else.
And then
I think on a core, maybe it would be a different question, a different answer. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna break anything on Elf massively.
Absolutely.
Everyone lost their +1 horse this age, so your Elf attacker basically has the regular O-spec offense. Everyone else is working a bit weaker on O-specs.
Thought process of the Warhorse reduction was that we were seeing TMs using Warhorses, and it was boosting their offensive capability quite a bit. So the easiest option was just to drop Warhorse by 1.
I think that's fair.
Across,
and it's a slight buff to Avian as well. Now their O-spec is on par with anyone's mounted O-spec, and that makes them a lot better in that sort of scrappy situation. Their starting offense isn't terrible either.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just 10 BE is such a pain, and having to pick True Blood to really sort of make everything work is just, it's a lot behind that wall. And I don't know if there's any race where I look at the Half-Blood bonus and go, this is as good as the True Blood bonus.
Yeah, and I think Benji actually commented that, that was the way, in his perspective, that, the Half-Blood shouldn't have a bonus as powerful as the True Blood. So that's the direction I think that they went with that. Right now I just have, the Utopia wiki actually up on the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side of the screen I have the the revised changes, rituals, just so everyone can kind of see like what the differences are between the two side by side. So anyone listening in right now, maybe you want to check that out or do it yourself, and you can see side by side what's actually changing, because a few things have been moved around, and certain things that have been the same for a very long time will not be the same. So if you could be in for a rude surprise if you are already casting that ritual, and then you look at it or read it closely and say, oh shit, when did they change that?
I think the rituals, while they look subtle, they are definitely going to change how kingdoms take their approach of other kingdoms. But I also am quite excited by that. I think it's going to really change things up, which I think is needed. I think there was very much a set path how people would go about things with rituals for a while now, and I think with these changes we'll really see a different thought process going forward.
Do you consider the attacking rituals stronger or weaker than before?
Actually, I think the rituals for attacking is diversified, so there's no one default we can go. So actually,
that was a good way of putting it. I would say diversified.
Well, they're diversified, but then you got your Havoc kicked in the balls on top of all your other TM nerfs.
But we all know why. Well, I mean, I'm sure you know why we kicked.
We all know why. Just worried. I'm not really worried. Just curious what happens, because you do have like 3 different areas where your TMs are getting nerfed all at the same time. I'm fine with that.
I mean, with Havoc, the difference is that what we've done is you've still got the WPA and TPA, which is really the purpose of Havoc, at least in my kingdom, was to be able to overpower the other TMs and obliterate them. So you still have that advantage there, but we've just obviously dropped that damage because it was just the amount of stacking that we were seeing this age was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that was FFW's purpose in these rituals, is that none of the 2 bonuses were self-stacking anymore, because the offense and the kills were multiplicative. Your TM damage, your TM power multiplicative, and that sort of stuff is rough. Even with Stalwart, same thing.
Yeah, definitely
so
some
I'm happy
changes.
With that. I guess your closest to your stacking now is your Godspeed attack time and gains. So those are almost the same bonus, but not exactly.
Almost, but a bit different. Almost, but different.
Yeah, so other than that, did you guys have anything else that you guys wanted to touch on? Just going back to the Dryad comment, though, someone posted in the YouTube, I think Dryads, if not smart, will fall into a trap, funding dragons, thinking that it would be an auto win for them while they ignore building efficiency and provinces that are struggling to build land. I mean, that kind of sounds like a normal hacker
nobody
problem.
builds land in war, and if they do, they should be shot behind the barn.
Yeah, well, exactly. What else are you supposed to do with those credits?
I got raised once on my 3D specs per acre. I need 1.2 million gold, please.
Yeah, well, when you're in that situation, I mean, it's a little bit different. Yeah, you don't want to be taking that much gold just to build acres that you'd be destroyed in less than 12 ticks anyway. Again,
I think Dryads are pretty workable. We've seen the minus honor loss in the past be a little bit too strong, but that was coupled with really overpowered undead at the same time. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out for Dryad this age.
I think we'll see more Dryad play this age. That's my feeling, but we'll see how we go. I don't want Dryad to just be seen as a heavy attacker, because that's not currently its role. And I think from a support perspective, as Win was saying earlier, I think we're in a good place with Dryad. Yeah.
I still think, though, that we're probably only going to see about 90 to about 180 Dryads. I'm basically just essentially
half
giving...
Dryad doesn't have Wrathful. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm basically giving each kingdom 2 Dryads, let's say, because it would be a common support caster. You might have 2 or 3, unless you're running an all Dryad kingdom or mostly Dryad kingdom or something like that. But yeah, I don't expect we'll see more than, unless there is some full kingdoms of Dryads or half kingdoms, I don't think we'll see more than 200 Dryads.
I think knowing for sure on the flat rate building bonus, if that's affecting homes, is a big one, or if that's protecting production and capacity, swing it pretty big.
I don't think it is, but I'll check it out.
And dungeons are usually affected as well. So, yeah, that's a pretty big income bonus. Makes your pumps really scary, especially if you've got arranged wars. And then it's just kind of cute when you're in war. You save some farms, save some stables. Minus gains, I don't notice when I'm playing them, but I do notice plus gains. So I always don't really care about a minus gains bonus, but I'm always happy when I have a gains bonus, so might be a bit of cognitive dissonance there for me.
Yeah, still, I think Dryad would work pretty good as an attacker because getting, the extra gains is just more land for the enemy to take, so I don't know if it's...
And if you just massacre and raise, the gains aren't even affected.
Yeah, so I think Dryad's
or maybe
pretty
they
good.
are.
Dryad either way is going to be a good pick for whether you want to be a support or just an attacker.
So I've gone through all races, everything else. I think the only other major one would be the war win points being hidden till the end of the age. Thoughts, opinions?
I kind of like that. It
doesn't
make
really
a big
change
deal.
a lot.
Let's see.
What was the other thing? We didn't really talk about it in the first
The
one.
war
but-
tier is still going to be visible on
Yes.
page, so you're going to know cutoff points, and the war scores aren't hugely different based on wins, except for when people are sandbagging it in the rank 30s, but it's pretty easy to pick those people out too.
Yep. And then we've dropped, we didn't actually talk about it in the first one, Wind, but we have obviously dropped the book production on End of War Ceasefire from 50 to 25.
Absolutely.
So that'll change things up for people a bit.
Yeah, I did. I think we did touch on that briefly when we were talking about Fairy's arcane book increase that they had lost on the revised, but we didn't look into it any deeper than that. But yeah, so I mean that's there's going to be less books out there from your ceasefires, at least during your ceasefire period. But still, that's kind of whatever. Like I said, the penalties, especially before, were kind of not very penalty-ish. Now they're like more like real actual penalties. You can still work around all of them. There's definitely some things, to be honest, I'm so ready to just play the game in any form that it's initially presented in. Like I would have gone with proposed changes. That would have been 2.5 months. I would have gone with revised. We can go with finals, 2.5 months, whatever. There's always ways to play around it. I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's really just going to come down to what feedback you can get and what's going to make people happy. I think the biggest issue right now is our player base obviously have come to expect Utopia to be a certain way, and changing it too drastically is not always an exciting prospect for them. But also at the same time, we don't have influxes of new players who can test all this stuff out and give more feedback as well. So we're very limited in that sense. However, that's definitely another discussion probably that we should be having with David or somebody else like that. Not necessarily the guests we have here today, because we need a little bit deeper insight from the game ownership for sure. But other than that, did you guys have any comments or questions or anything you wanted to say to the audience with regards to the changes at this time?
Not from me. I think it'll be a good age. I think you will see probably more of a meta shift to heavy attacker comps rather than more wall setups that we've had in this age.
Agreed.
I don't see that as a negative, to be honest. I think you will see different strategies, as I said, with rituals, more diversification of how you use them. I think most of the races are fairly in a good place. Like, we'll probably make a few changes, as we said, into finals. Obviously, we're sorry that we didn't get aggressive button in. Maybe we might look at it in next stage. But yeah, I think we're going in with a really positive set changes, regardless of what we do from revised to final.
Yeah, aggressor button, bring it back. I agree.
I will try.
I'd like to hear more feedback from the community at large as well. I mean, there's only like two of us kind of feedbacking, and we are, the kind of warring kingdoms. I'd like to find out what's on the minds on others as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look,
and
I'll take it back. See if we can get others on board.
You can definitely check out the age change discussion as well. I'm sure there's plenty of people who have already voiced similar opinions. I mean, unless you've already checked it out, but everyone else should definitely check that out as well. So be sure to voice your opinion there, especially on any of the topics that we touched on today. As I said, Benji is taking notes, and this is going back to the Age Changes Council. So if you wanted to make a difference, if you wanted to suggest something and really make a change, this is the time. As FFW has already told us, he expects the final changes to be completed by Friday. So that's before the age ends even, which is awesome, because normally we get it like late Sunday or late Saturday night or something like that, or Monday morning while we're at work, or who knows when it's happened in the past. There's so many random
be hitting
times.
that schedule.
And based on how quickly these two sets of changes came out, I think we're definitely on track for that. If not already ahead of schedule. So it seems to me like this is going to be probably
and Wind has become a robot again
by Thursday night. Yeah, you know what? It's a drop in the in my connection to Discord. It should be better now, but yeah. So
Squirrels.
I don't want to. Yeah, it's the squirrels chewing on the internet cables outside. It's 100%. They can actually they connect to the trees, so it's very easy.
All the gnomes that don't have a race anymore.
Yeah. Well, they turned into squirrels, of course.
as gnomes are known to do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, it's been awesome having you guys here. Thanks everyone for joining. Again, this is your host Wind. We were looking at the age 95 revised changes, and giving feedback on the age and the past age as well, how we felt with regards to attackers and TMs. The main takeaway from this is there's going to be a lot of attackers next stage, I think, and that's always a good thing. That means many good things. All right, thanks so much to everyone who joined. Special thanks, Smiles, Benji, Twisting, and everyone else, including Steven, who joined the show to voice their concerns and comments. And of course, everyone in the audience, in Discord and YouTube, thank you so much for joining. And be sure to check out the Warcast tomorrow, where I look at some of the greatest wars this age, as well as some of the wars that are still going on. Well, forget all the wars that are still going on or have finished in the past. And aren't past their ceasefire, but we're definitely going to look at the Merciless War and the 7, Merciless versus Moron. It was definitely a great looking war. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of interruption, which caused it not to be the greatest war that it possibly could have been. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow, and of course, final changes on. I got all the dates posted in the news column here, so be sure to check out the Warcast March 8th Year 9, and on May 8th Year 9 final changes cast and open forum with whoever is going to join. FFW will be there, very likely Benji will be there, and hopefully Persian can join as well as others. Of course, if you want to say something or you want to be part of the cast, feel free to raise your hand. Definitely love to have anyone on the show, and be sure to participate in the community as much as possible. Be sure to check out that forum, and of course the age 95 changes discussion. Thanks guys for coming.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Wind.
All right, have a good night or a day wherever you are.
Thanks guys.